Hi, welcome back to part 9 of our series, Unlocking Emotional Freedom. And so we've got this week, we've got next week, and we will finish up our series. I will warn you, I started yesterday with that tickle in my throat and sneezing. And so I'm doing all the things. I'm drinking the thieves tea, I'm taking the vitamin C, I'm taking the inner defense, doing all the things, but my voice is a little, and I may have a few little coughing spells. So I want to dive right in. Today's topic is embracing big emotions. And I want to start by sharing a story with you. So my husband has been under a lot of stress lately. His mother was in the hospital. Then she got home from the hospital and we realized she was going to need some assistance, some in-home care. So it started out, my husband and I were taking turns being there all the time. My husband and his brother each spent the night there, and then they wised up and realized, hold on, we're going to pay somebody to do this. So that has been weighing heavy on his mind. A couple weeks ago, his ex-wife had an aortic dissection, which means that aortic artery, vein, I don't know what it is, had a rupture, had a tear. And so they went in and fixed that. Well, she's had some complications and she's going back into surgery, another open heart surgery today to replace her aortic valve. So he's been, with his kids and helping them to cope and deal. And in the midst of all that, we're trying to get our house on the market because last Monday we closed on our new home. And so there's just been a lot. Plus, he runs his own business. There's been a lot of things that could cause a lot of stress and a lot of big emotions. And this is what I've noticed about my husband, is that when the big emotions show up, like worry, fear, he tends to just shut down and he goes silent. Now, he hasn't done this same work that I'm doing, that I have done, that you are doing. He doesn't know how to hold space for the big emotions. He thinks it's wrong to have those big emotions. He kind of shames himself for feeling certain ways. And those big emotions are uncomfortable. The big negative emotions are uncomfortable. We just don't want to feel them. We don't want to hold space for them. We don't want to sit in them. So we'll just numb ourselves out. Now, for some people, that becomes alcohol or drugs or online shopping or TV or scrolling social media or just like kind of going off into your own world. Doesn't matter how we do that. But I have been reminded over and over again of the blessing that this work has been in my life and how I'm able to hold space and embrace those big emotions when they come. We so often, and this is at no fault of our own because we weren't taught this, we make ourselves wrong for the big emotions we have. We try to figure out how to fix our emotions. We shame, we blame ourselves. But when you do this work that you're doing inside of Joybound, when you do all of this work in the personal growth space, the purpose is to allow and feel and welcome and embrace all of the emotions that show up. And there has been no better teacher for me for this work than the infidelity. When my infidelity experience first began, I had had a fairly easy life with little tragic or traumatic things. My grandmother died when I was 8, but other than that, my life had been pretty good from an emotional standpoint. In 2003, we lost my then father-in-law at the age of 51 to heart disease. And it was shortly after that that the affairs in my marriage started. And that was the first time in my adult life that I had these big, heavy emotions piled onto my plate. And I didn't know what to do with them. And I for sure shamed and blamed and made myself wrong. And I stayed that way for years because I just didn't know any other way. Instead of having compassion for myself and acknowledging myself, I spent my days trying to pretend I didn't have these big emotions. Over the last few years, I've been practicing this idea of embracing the big emotions myself. I'm either on the verge of tears or laughing. It's usually one or the other, or somewhere in a state of frustration. And honestly, I love that about me, because I used to live in the in-between of the big emotions. I used to live in the, there were the big emotions negative, the big emotions positive, and I just stay in the easy ones in the in-between. And I love that about myself, that now I can be on either side. And here's the thing, when you learn to be on the negative side, when you learn to hold space for that, the experience of the positive side is so much richer and so much fuller. There's this quote by Henry Nouwen that I want to share with you. I may have shared it before, but I can't remember. We tend to stay away from mourning and dancing, too afraid to cry, too shy to dance. We become narrow-minded complainers, avoiding pain and also true human joy, while we live in a world subject to the evil one. We belong to God. Let us mourn and let us dance. And I love that. First of all, it reminds me of my favorite scripture, which is Psalm 35. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. And I've also often thought of that scripture as the morning, not being the morning daylight morning, but morning, mourning. And you better believe I'm showing up for life now, mourning and dancing, because we, as I said, we live in a world subject to the evil one. We live in a world subject to suffering. Last night, my husband pulled something up on YouTube. We watched a few minutes of YouTube before we headed off to bed. And it was Jim Carrey giving a speech about suffering. And I'm going to go back and find that. And I'm going to either share it with you or get some quotes and pull from it to share, because it was so good. I looked over at my husband and I said, this is what I teach in Joybound. This is what I say to these women who are feeling these big emotions and don't know what to do with them. And so I'm here for what life has to offer, the good and the hard. And if you're like me and you're nodding your head at what I'm saying, then I want you to know that you can embrace the big emotions too. There is something about the big, intense emotions that just remind us that we're alive. Something about feeling angry. And this is one I have struggled with for a long time. And I have been practicing how to be angry. And I think if I shared that out into the world with most people, they'd think I was crazy. Like, why would you practice how to be angry? You shouldn't be angry. No, that's not true. It's okay to be angry. It's healthy to be angry. It's normal to be angry. It's part of the human experience to be angry. It's when we make ourselves wrong for it, when we put shame with an emotion, that we don't get to experience the life that we want. So I believe that when we allow ourselves to feel the full range of emotions, we also get to feel the full range of joy. And I had no idea until I started embracing all of the emotions, the joy I was missing out on. And we get to truly experience what it is to be human. This is the key to the big, expansive life. This is the key to healing from infidelity. We limit our experience of joy when we avoid or limit those big, heavy emotions. I know it sounds counterintuitive to tell you to embrace the pain of infidelity, but when you can do that, when you do that, it allows you to fully experience the joy of life. And y'all, the joy that has come from me embracing the pain of infidelity is beyond anything I could have ever imagined. Anything. This practice will be a game changer for your healing. When we stop the big emotions from moving through us, we create this low-level misery in your lives. And listen, I know that low-level misery. I stayed there for years. Infidelity is hard. It sucks. And in many ways, it's unfair. But we can choose to pretend it isn't there. We can choose to ignore the big emotions that come with it. But when you do that, you are missing out on what is available to you. A neighbor, shortly after I became a single mama, told me a story about a man who went to God and said, God, this cross you gave me, it's too heavy. I can't carry it. And God said, okay, you can choose a new one. And he took him into the closet of crosses and said, pick any cross you want. You can choose a new cross to carry. And after much thought and deliberation, the man finally chose a cross, and he said, I think this is the right one for me. I don't think it'll be too heavy. It feels right. And God looked at the man and said, that's the same cross you were carrying before. I won't say we're called to infidelity. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is you are capable of healing and overcoming and carrying the cross that you've been given. Infidelity is your cross. Maybe even divorce is your cross. Single motherhood might be your cross too. And you can have multiple crosses, but it is yours to carry. And how you decide to carry it makes all the difference. So I want you to practice this week, validating your big emotions. Tell yourself things like, of course you feel that way. Of course you're angry when something comes up. Or say, it makes sense that I'm feeling frustrated, that I'm feeling so much pain. And have curiosity about what emotions are showing up for you. And then I want you to be willing to dance and mourn and have your frustrations so that they can pass through you. And when you do that, you can be so much more present to yourself. And that is the key to creating the life you want after infidelity. And let me tell you, the good life is available to you. It is so available to you. And I want you to experience it. So we're going to embrace those big emotions. We're going to allow them. We're going to process them. We're going to get curious about them. We're going to do all of the things because they will change your life. You won't have to shrink and hide and avoid things. Like something big is happening in my life. And at this point, I'm like, bring it on. I can handle this. My shoulders are strong. I can carry it. I'm prepared. God knows what we can handle. Sometimes we feel like he doesn't, but he does. And there's always a lesson in the emotions that are coming. And when we decide to see what the lesson is in the big emotion, it unfolds that richer experience of life for us. Okay? All right. That's all I got for you this week. So I love you all, and I cannot wait to see you on the coaching call tomorrow. Let's have some really good coaching. Okay, see you tomorrow.